Hello, hello, and good evening, ladies. It is Marquessa Keith, and I am back with my good friend Stephanie David for Fit In Lady Like a Boss. And this is episode 8, where we're going to talk about food and nutrition. So, of course, I'm Marquessa Keith, the owner of Atkins and Keith Consultants LLC and Fit In Lady Like a Boss. And I am super excited to have this conversation tonight with Stephanie. She is a good friend of mine, met in Hawaii, have an extensive background in all things healthy, from bodybuilding to being a nutrition coach. So she is a holistic health and integrative nutritional coach. And that's even more value added as to the reason why I wanted to invite her to this particular episode so that we can have this discussion. So without further ado, Stephanie, I'm going to turn it over to you for a few minutes so you can tell us any additional background information that you would like to share with the audience before we kick off the discussion with our first topic for tonight.
First of all, thank you for having me. It's overwhelming seeing that that's what you're supposed to put in the front of your resume. I was a literacy teacher for 10 years. I'm also a mom. I want to say the back resume outside of nutrition school, I never wanted to learn about nutrition school. My grandparents raised me in the North Province. I was born in Inglewood, California, but I was sickly, very sick. So from about 6 months to 6 years old, I was with my grandparents in the North Province in the Philippines. They were butchers. And somehow from being a baby in LA to the Philippines, the nutrition switched because it had to. We were on a family vacation, but all my allergies went away. So they left me there. And then about 6 years old, I went back to LA. My father was an engineer in the day, a hunter and a fisherman on the weekends. And I just grew up always around food. We didn't know portions. There was no nutrition or healthy or organic. Everything was family style. And so it was a really good recipe to be very confused once I started bodybuilding around meeting you.
Yes. And you have a great background. I think I learned a lot from you during our time spent on the island while we were competing, just talking about the differences of food, what it was doing to your body, what it was doing to my body. And later on, if you don't mind sharing in the conversation or towards the end, whenever you see fit throughout these next 30 to 45 minutes, I know you ended up having an allergy. So I'm glad you brought that up to some foods that you ate. We can actually jump into that now before we go into the first topic, if you don't mind. But I remember you having an allergy to some food that gave you an inquisitive mindset to where you created oils that was able to heal this allergy that you attracted. So I'm not going to pretend like I know all the details, but I saw your results and I was like, oh my gosh, this is some scientific, amazing stuff. So let me just let you share a little bit more about that, if you don't mind.
No, not at all. It's a painful one. But I think a lot of people can relate. I never had great skin. I always had blotches on my skin. Growing up, I was a pretty regular kid. Very obedient. I had an older sister. I did what she said. I was good at being bored, meaning you can just leave me and I wouldn't really do. I was a pretty regular, ordinary kid. But my skin was always an issue. I have rashes, I had hives, and they told me I always had sensitive skin. Come to my 20s, I'll just tell you guys, I thought I WebMD'd myself as bulimic. I was like throwing up, and I had stamped myself like, okay, you're bulimic. You got to figure out your bulimia. I went to a therapist to help me with bulimia. This is after 1 or 2 years of trying to WebMD and counsel myself because of the shame. The therapist was like, do you know what anxiety is? And at the time, the definition was like, yeah, you just have feelings. It was so naive. She was like, well, yes, but it also can turn into a bunch of different things. And long story long, she encouraged me to understand that anxiety can actually manifest into your body not metabolizing things correctly. It can affect your gut health. And then in my 20s, the allergies and the hives evolved, right? Food evolves, we evolve. It turned into stomach aches. It turned into me scratching so much my skin would bleed. It turned into me being so dependent on hormone cream and steroid cream. And then it turned into them telling me that I had diverticulitis, ulcers in my stomach based on my nutrition. By then, I was eating everything from Hawaii locally because my stomach hurt. I was actually afraid to eat. And so the doctor was like, why don't you go see an allergist? It ended up I had 34 different food allergies coupled with anxiety. So the doctor was like, of course, nothing is metabolizing. Like, and so it turned into this very obedient, I don't want to ruffle the feathers. If the doctor says I am sick, then I am sick. That's how the transformation was, where no one was giving me the answer. And I knew something about my body that was a little different. And I was so scared to go against the grain. And then it took the final straw, crying, having allergies, not knowing what to do. The doctor was like, what's it going to take for you to develop a system for food that's going to work for your body? And I was like, well, I don't know who does that. Like, we just eat in our family. We just eat. What are you talking about? And he's like, you can figure this out. Like, this is figure outable. And that was it. That was my permission to go on a very lonely, lonely path, fueled by curiosity, not confidence. I have to be honest with that. It was genuine curiosity, but it bypassed that competitive path that I think sometimes when we're in our health journey, we come to, because we're trying to figure it out and reference. And so, yeah, it was hard. Oh, it was so hard.
Absolutely. And that's a great segue to go right into this first topic of discussion, is the differences and the correlation between food and nutrition. So I titled this episode Food and Nutrition because a lot of people may know, but some people may not know there is a difference. Even if it's a subtle difference, there is a difference. That subtle difference is a very important one. And what do I mean by that? When we think about food, yes, it's there. It's something that we need in order to just sustain, live, and make it throughout the day, because we have to put something in our body, right? That's the food piece. But the whole nutrition piece is what is in the food that we're consuming, that we're putting in our body, that helps the body metabolizes it and helps different cells, different immune system, different parts of our internal organs to function the way that they need to function and function properly. That's the nutrition piece that I think we as people, we as human, we sometimes, if we eat what we grew up on, right? A lot of what you mentioned earlier in your younger childhood day, we eat what we grow up on, and we're not really in tune to like intuitive eating in a way to help our bodies properly function. And I'll segue that and tell you, some of the problems that I have personally identified with or have identified with through someone else indirectly is, what type of foods have the right nutrients in them for us to eat, and it's tasty and we want to eat it. Because when we think about healthy eating, we might think of feel food, rabbit food, something I don't want to eat. It's not going to keep me full. It's not going to keep me energized throughout the day. So I really want to, have you deep dive with me the differences and whatever other correlations you want to add value to on with that, as far as food and nutrition is concerned, separately and together, and why that's so important.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. It's hard. So learning English at 6, a lot of my teenage life was really sorting what English was. Like, for example, you know how things are like for sale? And like, they're not, they're for purchase. Like, everything is for purchase. A sale is like when something's like 20, 30, 40, 50% off. And for a long time, I didn't understand why people said it's for sale, because it wasn't on sale. It was for purchase. And similarly, food and nutrition is that way. Sometimes I do hear people use it interchangeably. Sometimes people use it wrong. Sometimes I hear people use it to really make people feel insecure about the food. And the simple part is most things are edible. If, a crayon is non-toxic, it's edible. When the word nutrition is supposed to have more weight, but I love that you brought up the word intuitive, because for me, it wasn't intuitive. My nutrition was what was put on the table. And I've come to learn as a holistic health coach is nutrition, my definition, my working definition, as in you might meet me 5 years from now and I might change it. But my working definition of nutrition is that what feeds you. And that includes the people, the things that you put in your mouth, the things that you touch in your hand, the things that you listen in your ear, like that which feeds you. And you got to get really honest with yourself with what you're hungry for, what you're not hungry for. And I think that's a big starting point. If anybody in the audience is like, well, that's too hippie granola, like that's too foo-foo. If you wanted me to go to the grocery store, that which what feeds you generally is the perimeter of the grocery store. Simply put, you want to build a body and a mind that lasts forever. We kind of have to minimize and get a little pickier at the food that lasts forever. That's
Right.
simple part of it, truthfully. um I don't know, does that help?
Yes, that's definitely helpful because to take it a step further too, that puts into perspective sometimes unexplained weight gain or weight loss. Like, when you look good, you feel good, and vice versa. When you feel good, you look good, but it has to be an inside out type thing based on how we fuel our bodies, because food can do a lot of things. It can cause an imbalance to our metabolism. It can either increase or minimize our energy to sustain us throughout the day so that our brain is functioning properly so we can think and we're not sluggish. But all of that ties into going back to, am I going to gain healthy weight or lose healthy weight, or am I just going to be in a limbo when it comes to really understanding, how to fuel my body with food and nutrition? So that outside perimeter of the grocery store that you just mentioned, that's a great start. And I won't even call it newbie, because none of us are really new to eating, but some of us may be new to how we want to transition to a healthier habit of the
Mhm.
things that we eat. We know we need to, migrate away from a lot of processed foods. We know we need to pay attention to X, Y, and Z, whether it comes to, the macro nutrition, if people are counting macros and they're portioning out their food and they're measuring everything. Some people may not have time for that. So that quick fix is knowing where to go when you're shopping, knowing how to put your ingredients together when you get the food home so that it is tasteful, so that you can stay on track with losing that weight or burning the fat. So you make a really great point, and I'm glad that you shared every detail that you shared about that, because it's very, very important.
I think where people get mixed up, I think the most dangerous, and I hear it often as a coach, is this good or bad?
Yes.
I'm gonna save people a lot of time in that. For me, fundamentally, I'm not motivated by. I mean, I was born and raised in a Roman Catholic family, church, everything. Um, I've never been the kind of person motivated long term by shame. I have it. I absolutely have it. But has it empowered me? No. And so I do think, like, connecting, food as good and bad is a dangerous recipe because it sets us up instantly to win and lose.
Yes.
Where food is so much more than winning and losing. And nutrition, your nutrition, everyone's nutrition story is more than winning and losing. And I just have to plant that seed because I hear it. It's January 2022. It's the new year. You hear it right now, like, be good or bad, or this or that. It's not black and white. It's a gray. There's a continuum. And truly, for my philosophy of coaching is, I'm very 0 to 60. I think that's why bodybuilding was so easy, because it's crazy. It's like non-negotiably you're 60. Um, but what has provided me is, like, now that I know it's like this is all or this is nothing, I have been able to beautifully sit in this middle, and like, me just going from 10 to 50, that was one win. And then 20 to 40, like, and to stay here not accidentally, it's been real fun. But sometimes we have to go to those extremes and hear and think, nah, good and bad doesn't work for me, or 0 to 60, I've been there, done that. There has to be more. And there is.
Right. And so the balancing piece, creating those habits based on our bodies and our blood types, which is another
Mhm.
critical point of people really understanding and knowing what your body type is, along with your blood type, how to fuel it and how to train it. I like to say training versus exercising, because sometimes exercising might not do people justice depending on your body type and depending on your blood type. So you do all this work and you feel like it's all done for nothing and it's done in vain, when it's really not. It might be just tweaking the mindset to really understand that. For my case, I'll use myself as an example. I'm an endomorph body type, and I'm A positive blood type, right? So when I really started to get in tune with how my body needed to be fueled and then how it needed to be trained, and I synced the two together, then I started to transform my body.
Mhm.
Because I can take someone else's eating plan and it's not one and the same. Because if I'm trying to eat like an ectomorph and a B type blood type, it's not going to work for me, because I'm either going to gain in disproportion, but good for me because of my body type. I can lose evenly because I'm a square type endomorph, and I can gain evenly. But it's all about how those portions are going to come and how they're going to go. So when I, deep dive that a little bit more for my own sake, it was more so on the training side, resistance training coupled with resistance type cardio. That's how I brought my body down. That's how I trimmed. That's how I toned. And that's how I was able to transform different parts of my body from upper to lower. And then when I took it back to my blood type, I had to figure out what foods, when it came to protein, when it came to carbs, when it come to fats, would work in my favor, so that as I'm training, my body would not fight against me. Because a lot of that happens when we don't understand exactly what it is that we're doing. Our bodies will start to fight us instead of responding and working with us and helping us get towards the goal, the end state of the goals that we've set in place. So people tend to give up before they start. And I don't want to go too far, because the next thing I was going to deep dive into was the hormones. But I'm going to hold right there on the blood type and body type, balancing those eating habits, and let you share some more from your background, your experience, and being a holistic health and integrative nutrition coach, of some intel that you can give to the audience on that topic right there.
Yeah, I mean, if someone doesn't know their blood type is at the end of the world, no. That's
No.
what people need to know. Number one. What you're also going to hear is that like A means you're a vegetarian, O means you have to eat meat, and B means that you have to eat dairy. That's wrong too. Truthfully, it means that if I'm also A positive, it means that we are genetically predisposed to metabolize vegetables easier, as opposed to someone who is type O. They're genetically predisposed to eat or metabolize animal protein easier, whereas a person who's B, they will metabolize dairy a little easier. Now, what happens if you're vegan and type O? What happens is that the vegan diet is a little tricky because it's the only one very connected to something political. So you're going to get a lot of other things compared to others. But for the most part, I've worked with clients who identify as vegan for perhaps animal political reasons, and all of a sudden, like you said, their body is not responding to a very plant-based diet. In fact, their body is decaying and they need animal protein. And so what you won't hear about is the vegan who will responsibly, conscientiously order bison from a Native American tribe once a month because their body physically needs it, and it's their happy negotiation of supporting local, native, and at the same time trying to do less damage in terms of their views on animal rights. And I think for anyone who out there who has found a diet, that whether it's the blood type diet, it's important that you celebrate that you found something that works, but it's also important to celebrate that maybe your body's going to evolve and you might be vegan-ish, you might be paleo-ish, carnivore-ish. And the ish really gives room for your body's, especially if you are a woman, especially if you have had children. Every time you've had children, it's a different, and I might go down a little rabbit hole, but I will just put out there that I don't necessarily connect or have an understanding with the woman who is trying to get back. Steph, I just want to get back to when I was. Just because I live by the fundamental belief that we were meant to age, and we can age well, and we can age forward. And as much as you were proud of that body before, during, after baby 1, 2, 3, forward can also be a beautiful place. But we do need to take the time to understand, okay, did it change, right? From being, some women I've noticed have changed from an endomorph to ectomorph, not because their genetics changed, but the time span, their lifestyle, right?
Yes.
My nurses who have 12-hour shifts, anybody who's working graveyard shifts, your body, your diet, your sleep, your circadian rhythm, all of those play a factor into your hormones, which they are the headquarters of fat loss and muscle building.
They are. And I'm glad you mentioned, the hormones and the lifestyle changes that could change your body type, because that is very much true. And I know for me, again, I can only go back to my own experience, because sharing that experience, maybe someone who is similar or like my body type can identify. Same with you. Is I had to understand which hormones sometimes was being affected based on my lifestyle, whether it was work, whether it was personal, working out, spending time with family, friends. Our bodies do different things in different events. And so leptin and cortisol levels were very important for me to really get in tune with, so that I can understand how I needed to proceed forward, so I could figure out, okay, I'm going to make a mindful decision today about what I'm going to eat and what I'm going to drink. Because when the stress level go up, so does the water rate and water retention in the body, right? It doesn't release it. So if I'm that type of person that's going to step on the scale and that's going to be my measurable on a consistent, frequent basis, I'm not going to factor in the fact that the water levels have risen to a 10-pound gain, plus or minus, because the first 10 pounds, a lot of time in weight loss, is water weight. And sometimes the first 10 pounds of gain, after you feel like, oh, I have done so great for 2 weeks and I had that one bad eating habit and now I'm fat again. People keep forgetting that most of the things we eat has water, and the body retains water, which goes back to those hormone levels. And that's where I was losing a lot of grounding, a lot of mental, I was ignorant to the fact. And once I took training and eating very seriously, I was just like you. I had to go do my own, counsel as a coach and get myself right. So when I went back to a coach, I could follow the instructions and we could work together, because sometimes that's what it's all about. You have to be communicating with whomever you're going to go to for guidance, that's going to help you tweak your body so that they know how to adjust. Because just like with age, our body types can change over time. Whatever goals you have, your food, your meal plan, it all needs to change. And once we get to a point that we're satisfied with our body composition, it's about sustaining. Which, I'll let you talk more about that, but that's definitely going to lead us into the next topic of discussion about, food being a medicine concept, or food is medicine type concept.
Yeah, my last part I will say about hormones and test kits. I worked at a clinic. I had my son at home. My family has a family history of allergies to anesthesia. I definitely have white coat lab syndrome. So when I was offered the opportunity to work at a clinic, it was comedic to my family, because they knew how much being at a hospital scared me. If there's any one of your women out there who are like, I want to know about my hormones, but Steph, I also don't want to go to the hospital, a workaround, I subscribe to Everly. Everly Well is it's $29 for a month, and every single month you get to choose from a variety of different at-home test kits. So they have a cortisol test kit, they have a thyroid test kit, they have a women's test kit that checks everything. And there's something about the convenience of going to my mailbox every month and just checking my hormones and not having to go into an office. I'm just going to say it, health is inconvenient. It really is.
And
And so,
expensive.
yes, absolutely. And that's why I said the kits, if you're not like a subscriber, is about anywhere from $65 to $100. But for somehow, if you subscribe and there's no initiation fee, there's no cancellation fee, $29 guarantees me a little kit. And for me, I just need it because my mind used to spin. And if once I started spinning, the idea of getting on a plan or a routine or a rhythm or a habit, there was no point, because my mind was spinning. So it's really important to have these checks and balances, whether it's a person or whether, here's my test kit every month. It helps quiet the noise, because sometimes I'll admit it, I used to think like, well, am I trying to be healthy forever? Like, is that even attainable? Is that attainable? Like, it was just confusing. It was. And so really trying to break it down in terms of, and I only operate in 8 and 12 week plans. Like it's the January 2022. When I talk to my clients, I'm like, what are we doing for quarter one, which is January, February, March? Quarter two, we're not even there. And honestly, for most of my women, they had not recovered from the holidays until this week, till the second or third week of January. Like, and I had to coach them in that we are not ahead, we are not behind. Like January 1st means nothing, truthfully. Monday means nothing. But it's a real thing, because I think as women, we're communal and we respond to one another and we respond to that momentum of the group, because we make little people, you know?
We do. And that's a lot in itself, because that's how our bodies are designed, which means we have to work harder sometimes, depending on, again, your body type. There's a lot of things that factors beyond that, where some of us don't have to work as hard as others, as women who bear children, and we're trying to get to a sustainable weight phase, or get back to just a point where we are feeling good about where we stand in our weight. But getting to the food is medicine concept. And I do want to put the disclaimer in here for anyone listening. I'm not telling you, and Stephanie is not telling you, that if you are taking medications that today, tomorrow, next year, you're going to replace all your medications with food. No, it goes back to when you get to a sustainable point in your lifestyle, keyword lifestyle, eating habits. It's about, what do I do from here? And that's where that weaning effect come into place. So prime example, if my goal is to go from 140 to 125, once I do everything in between as healthy and as knowledgeable as possible to hit 125, if I want to retain that within 125, and you got to give or take 3 to 5 pounds here and there. But if I want to stay there, I've got to know what to do so that I can, limit and minimize and just alleviate stress. And I know what my metabolism can tolerate. And that's where that food is medicine concept kicks in and come into play, is that you have to know now what foods with that nutrition, going back to it, what nutrients are in the items that I'm now going to choose going forward so that I can sustain. So if I never get up consistently for a week or 2 weeks and train my body, I can go in my kitchen and it will be just like training, because I've stocked my fridge and I know what items I'm putting in, and I'm not running down the street to the McDonald's or the Chick-fil-A because today was a lazy day. It's okay to have a lazy day, and I'm not trying to shame anyone. I'm simply saying be mindful of that when you have a weight or a body composition goal. So when you hit that goal, you can sustain it and you can fight off any diseases or illnesses or decrease in your immune system based on the foods that we put in our bodies. So I'll let you touch on that some more, Stephanie, about food is medicine concept.
I'm going to go back to when you talked about water weight, right?
Yes.
Like something that I make my clients do. They don't like it, but it's fun for me because it's so necessary, which is like, so I'm 4'10". I'm a little person. I walk through the airport. The sensors do not recognize me because I'm not 5 feet. And I will say one of my favorite dishes is like it's a fried chicken, garlic chicken plate in Hawaii. And I will easily gain, eating rice, mac salad, and that fried chicken that I'm allergic to, I will easily gain off top at least 7 pounds. If I'm having ice cream after that, that's 10 pounds off of one meal. And I used to be like, how? I didn't understand how you gain 10 pounds, which generally, if you are gaining more than 3 pounds in under 3 days, you are throwing around some heavy water. And it's important that you know that there's water weight and then there's like actual weight. It's important that you know that.
Yes.
How do you lose that water weight? You got to drink more water.
Yes.
And in truth, if you're a scale person, because I was a scale person, you got to know that scale's going to go up before it goes down.
Yes.
And that's one. What I didn't know until I worked at the clinic was there is an enormous population of our community right now, especially women of color, who do not have a set, defined, pleasant relationship with medication. They were given that medication because the doctor said XYZ. Many of my clients are very open about, I didn't take it, or I took it today, I'm not going to take it tomorrow. There is, and it's a quiet conversation because it's not something to be celebrated at. But I do want to just put it out there that it is very normal if your doctor gave you a medication and you are inconsistently taking it. Yeah, that's not the greatest, but I also want to recognize that we have to, everything is a relationship. So if you study monks who generally are, they think of the body holistically, one happy negotiation is some of them who do take their Western medicine, they'll actually like pray over the medicine and imagine like, please medicine, do and go to wherever you're supposed to go in my body. And I've
Yes.
never thought about opening up my Tylenol and like imagining it doing that, but it was helpful. It humanized the experience of medicine when generally many of us don't really feel good about taking pills. And I think it's also really important to recognize that someone whose conviction, who they have found a food that totally has changed their life, it is okay that their medicine is either your poison or you're really not about it. That right now is the industry of like, look at me, take this, take this. From the pandemic, Hugh, I can't tell you how many times I've worked out with someone and they're like, can we go into my kitchen? And I'm thinking, I want to see your kitchen set up. Because in my head, I think of it as a gym. You go to the gym, it's set up for success. I'm thinking I'm going to do a kitchen makeover or just rearrange things. No, the amount of women who have a pantry of supplements that they don't know what to do with, I'm not embarrassed for the woman. In fact, I think it's an indication of high performing women. We want to know. We are active. We want to do. It's just the surplus of what supplements and food, like we're buying everything in the name of health, but nobody's really guiding us. We are in a land of social media where everyone wants specific information, but we're looking at it from a generic place.
Yes.
It's dangerous.
Yes. And I want to pop up this comment and question from one of the viewers on YouTube. He says, fasting prevents most diseases. And have you heard about fasting? So let's talk about that for a quick second. Yes, fasting can prevent a lot of diseases. That goes back to the weaning effect that I was mentioning earlier. Some people can't fast longer than 6 hours. So it's all about, being able to sustain something that you're going to incorporate and do too. So fasting is a great way for a lot of things, preventing most diseases, dropping weight, sometimes getting people off of some of the medications that they do take. But I would like to caution and encourage people to be careful with the type of fasting that they do as well, because it's not something that's meant to be a long life sustainable thing. It's a periodical thing, in my opinion, from both having done it and still do fasting here and there. But individual have to have their minds set on fasting the right way so that they don't damage themselves, right? Because there are a lot of fast programs out there. There's spiritual fast. There are different type of fasts that people will follow, and based on that individual's makeup, it can help them in various ways. So I totally agree with that comment. And to answer the question, yes, I have heard of fasting. And Stephanie, I'll let you touch some more on fasting, preventing diseases. And I know you've heard of fasting. We've both done it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't disagree that fasting can prevent some diseases. There's not a blanket statement for everyone. I think that fasting has really helped a lot of people manage the noise, because social media and technology, there's a lot of noise. And so having some parameters on when to eat, I will say for a lot of people, it is convenient, right? And this is completely different. But if I did drugs and I struggled with the drugs early in the morning at late at night, and you were like, okay, don't do drugs in the morning at night, do I still have a drug problem? Right? So I have to recognize that convenience is king. But when it comes to the different levels of fasting, like you said, I've heard of fast where people do not drink or consume any liquid. To me, that is dangerous from an athletic standpoint. It's dangerous from a hormonal standpoint. And I would also caution that, what is the purpose of fasting for, historically fasting was for discipline and peace of mind. At the same time, a lot of people are fasting with their own different twists. Will fast and drink this lemon pepper something. um, it just gets, without the clarity in the why are you fasting, everything else gets a little tricky. Fasting just to fast is not recommended. And for me personally, I've tried it. I don't enjoy how it makes me feel. As much as I want, and as much as it's doable and convenient as a busy mom with multiple jobs, um, there's something about, and I think for me, my background is brain health. Our brain needs and craves fat and protein in the morning.
Mhm.
It's why many of us, in addition to, caffeine, the caffeine will dehydrate our brain. And if we're not properly hydrated, we experience mental fatigue, brain fatigue, emotional fatigue by 11, 12. So I'm just thinking about in terms of longevity, you know,
Yes.
there's a slippery slope, and I'll end with, like, what's the longest you should do before brain damage? According to my research, is 72 hours. Like, nobody should be not eating longer than that unless they want to or risk some kind of permanent cognitive damage.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to sometimes it affects different people in different ways. Some people don't feel any effects behind it, while other people do. And the first sign of feeling an effect from it is the Hunger Games. It's like I'm starving, I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat the first thing that I see, because I have essentially, starved myself for a particular time based on my why. So no, totally concur with you there. And then moving on to, the latter part of the conversation before we go into the facet mindset questions that I always ask at the end, is just share with us, your lifestyle eating over dieting motivators. You touched on it a little bit earlier. It's all about getting to the lifestyle part, right? Because that whole diet thing, I'll tell you, for me, when I hear it now, all I hear is restriction. And I'm like, I'm not getting ready to restrict myself beyond what I'm willing to tolerate. That's just it for me. Back in the day, you could give me a diet. I didn't care what kind it was. It could be cookie cutter. It could be eat all vegetables. I didn't care what it was. I would do it because I just needed some way to get started. But as I learned and now I know better, I will not diet again. I will keep fasting. And I know that sounds cliche. It's like, you're kind of, speaking over yourself. No, I think that there's a difference, because I understand how to eat for my lifestyle versus when I say I'm going to take 24 hours to fast, or in your case, that's 72, because I do not go past that now. I do not go past the 72-hour window if I'm going to fast. I just cannot do it. I've done 40-day fast before, and I do them once a year. But this year, I decided not to do that 40-day fast because there's a lot of nutrients that my body was losing as well. But I won't ramble. I just want you to share some lifestyle eating over dieting motivators for people to transition from being on a long diet that they realistically may not be able to sustain to a lifestyle eating habit.
Yeah, so when we talk about integrative nutrition coach, I'll be really clear. Like, a nutritionist is going to value nutrition. Like, here is the food that's going to help you. An integrative nutrition coach is like, what are your values? What are you into? What's important in your life? And then I'm going to help you find different nutritional approaches to honor those values. And I need to that's very important that people understand that, because if I don't understand your value, and what you understand as freedom, then all I'm saying is gibberish, right?
Mhm.
And so sometimes when people are like, I just want to, I want to be confident, or I want to be free. Nutrition freedom is a thing. Once upon a time, nutritional freedom for me was having all my Tupperwares lined up so that I can just grab and go and not think. Right. And then life changes, values change, and nutritional freedom could be going to the restaurant and instantly scanning the menu and being like, this dish is going to work for me for my goals right now. Right. But how do you get from cookie cutter dieting, I'm going to follow this plan, to lifestyle? And I think a lot of it's kind of what you said, Q, is all right, I know I can follow a plan. I've followed many plans, and you kind of checked and satisfied that appetite and that pride in being able to follow a plan. And then you wanted more, right? You wanted something that you can do and And you said it, like for you, like a trigger word was, if it's restrictive, I don't want it. We all have that trigger word. I call them triggers, traps, and trauma. There are these booby traps. There are these words that we instantly, it sets us off. It's important that we recognize what those are, because there's 101 diets that are all about freedom, and there's 101 diets that are all about restrictive. But it's important that we recognize that those are a trigger. I would even say, though, if someone is transitioning like they've done with the cookie cutter and it's time to lifestyle, one really important thing is to audit the people around them. My family's Filipino and Spanish. Historically, we are not known for being the fittest and most. We're not recognized for our nutrition, and just to say it bluntly, my family is like, every time I eat, I am a spectacle. Like, they just don't know how I'm eating whole food, not lettuce, and still be able to maintain a competitive physique.
Yeah.
It is, and I have to recognize that that is okay, that my family does not have necessarily the vocabulary to support me all the time. Like, this is 7 years in the game. I went to Cornell for plant-based nutrition because bodybuilding was a little bodybuilding is so protein oriented. I wanted to be a diverse coach. So when I went to Cornell for plant-based, they just thought I was just going to eat vegetables. But I think it's important to audit and inventory, especially if you're a community oriented woman. It is okay that your community doesn't necessarily have the vocabulary to support you. It's okay you don't have the vocabulary to support you. But this is why I do recommend coaching. Like, a conversation changed my life. A conversation was able to transition my mindset from a diet to, like, you hired basically someone to show you how to take your life seriously. And I think once I forgave myself that I needed that, I think somehow I thought, why don't I know how to eat? Why don't I know how to have self-worth? Once I got over the fact that I just didn't acquire these skills, it was a lot easier to soak up everything because I was getting out of my own way.
Absolutely. So I want to leave these points before we close out this discussion, which I have thoroughly enjoyed, by the way, is you need water, you need
Mhm.
rest, you need nutrients, you need your healthy omega-3 fatty acids, aminos, and a combination of good fats again,
Yep.
carbohydrates, protein, and throw those veggies and some fruits in.
Yes.
Reading the back of the nutrition label on any product, item, produce that you buy is critically important. It's not just going from top to bottom of the numerical stuff that just says how much fat is in it, how much sodium is in it, how many carbohydrates, how much sugar. Those are the things we need to pay attention to. But that critical piece is everything underneath in the ingredients, because something can have 0 in it, but it may not be listed on that label because it's hiding in the ingredients, and a lot of people miss it. Like, they'll say, oh, I was eating this, Marquessa, and you told me, you recommended this would be something good that will help me, but here's the results that I've gotten. Okay, what did you choose to do versus what we talked about you would do, and then what's on the back of the nutrition label? So if someone says, I just want to stop eating sweets, you're not going to just stop eating sweets. You can transition from sweets so that you don't start to crave it more. But the minute you start hitting into those sugars, your body is going to crave more sugar. And people think that they're escaping it because it says 0, but they forget to look at the ingredients. So I do want to point that out and just be able to leave some valuable information again at the end. This whole conversation has been valuable, but definitely those takeaways about the food in itself. So I'll let you
I
go ahead.
want to add to that, where for hydration, our brain cannot differentiate between hungry and thirsty.
Yep.
So there's so many times I ate thinking I was hungry, I wasn't thirsty. I would add that we got to remember, for our people who are in families, especially like heterosexual families, we as women need at least 15 to 13% body fat to live. This is not that we need more to make a child. Our men, they can live at 2 to 3% body fat. So when I have couples that are doing the same diets, we need to stop comparing apples and oranges. We got to know that a man can really walk around the grocery store at 2 to 3% body fat. It's just a different DNA. I think that's really, really important. I love the fact that you talk about nutrition labels. It is okay that people don't know how to. There are companies banking on people staying illiterate. I mean, I would just say for my Fit Kitchen course, it's a 4-phase course. Phase 2 is all about how to read a nutrition label for your body. It's a very specific thing. Like there are generic ones on how to read nutrition label, but you're absolutely right. There are things that are 0 sugar. That does not mean they're unsweetened. It means that they're sweetened with something else, right?
Yes.
And because the nutrition label is written in accordance to the first ingredient has the most. Well, what most companies are doing right now is there are so many chemical artificial sweeteners that they're just putting a little bit of this and a little bit of this and a little bit of this, and they just tuck it at the very bottom. Right. So at this point, if you don't even know that xylitol's, erythritol, if you don't know that that's a sugar, how do you even, again, going back to my ESL, how would I even know that that's a sweetener? And how would I even know that's 300 to 600 times sweeter than sugar? Right. I only know this because my dad died from diabetes. Like this was not a profound choice I did. It was just like I was his right-hand man eating at night, all the sweets with him. So when we lost him, guess who got good at sugar? Not by choice, because I lost my best friend.
Yes. And it's just those helpful reminders that will motivate someone to go back and say, look, yes, even though I know this, it's time to implement it if I really want to hit that target goal. So first question of the fast round mindset questions is, what is your favorite book?
It would be a split between Winning and Relentless by Tim Grover.
Winning and Relentless. Okay.
Kobe is Kobe and Michael Jordan's coach.
Okay. Nice.
He is hard. He's harsh, but in a good way.
It sounds like a good read. The next question is your favorite self-care activity.
Putting my phone on airplane mode, because as a coach, as a homeschool mom, as an educator, my phone is everything. Airplane mode is enough to quiet the what if my family needs me, but like the internet, the technology is just quiet for a little bit.
Nice. And then how many times were you told no in any facet of your career life, personal life? How many times were you told no?
Girl, I did 13 shows raising a kid. And I'm going to tell you, I did 13 shows in 3 years. So I competed for 6 years. Every other year I've competed. What was I doing all the other years? I went to nutrition school, and it was because nobody was telling me what I wanted. The bodybuilders were like, follow this plan, don't deviate from the plan. And then the nutrition people, the plant-based people were like, plants are the answer. And the holistic people were like, journaling is the answer. Everyone was not putting the pieces together. Like everyone was saying, no, this is the one answer. So I'm just going to tell you, like, guys, if you guys don't know, bodybuilding is very expensive. I should not have done 13 shows. I'm broke, but it's very expensive health, but it's also the freedom in your health is priceless. It is priceless. So I have to tell you that 13 shows you that I don't know if I'll compete on the stage again. I'd have to be in a different mindset, but it was all no, Q. I wanted a win. I wanted an answer. I wanted the secret. Nobody gave me that until I realized, oh, like I am a winner because I know my body. I know how to adjust. I know how to scale. I know how to get structured and get shredded. And I know how to thicken up, and I know how to do it without guilt. So
that's the beauty in it right there, doing it without guilt. The next one is, do you have a business mentor or coach?
It's new. Yes. I actually, since I'm not bodybuilding, I'm focused mostly on my business. I actually hired my coach's coach, who is transitioning from being a bodybuilding coach to being a full-time business coach for health coaches.
Nice. And then what is the most rewarding aspect of your career? It can be your coaching life, teaching life. What is the most rewarding aspect of that?
So my Fit Kitchen is a combination. They take a course, and for 12 weeks, we meet one-on-one. My favorite part about that is I can't tell you how many times a woman comes to me, and I'm that woman where we swear our story, our pity party story, our circumstances are hopeless. Like we're so ashamed of our shit. And there's the moment that they get really honest with themselves that honestly, that's the very beginning formula. That's the foundation, the rock bottom, whatever we want to call it. What we forget is like rock bottom stone is a really, really good foundation to start building something. And that's my favorite part. I feel so honored just because these are not things that we can share on Instagram or Facebook. It's the private conversations
Yes.
that spark what people reward publicly.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree there. And then give us your number one health and wellness tip.
It's okay that people
so many, it's hard to name just one.
Okay, here. I'm just gonna say it. What has helped me mostly, honestly, I have like profound anxiety, you guys. I'll just let you know because I think too much. What has been able to help me quiet that noise is whether it's I'm a paper and pencil kind of girl. So try to track your habits. My master's is in creativity theory and brain health. Our brain doesn't like to do this work, you guys. Like it's not motivation, it's not discipline. Like, we need to stop putting it on effort. Our brain does not want to do this work because this work is hard. And so what helps the brain is to see and chunk. Even if it's a month, it's good that you take it week to week. And I'm just gonna let if you know anything about the brain, it has an ego, it's moody, and sometimes you just need to pet it and be like, look, boo, like you're doing okay. And the only way I've been able to do that is to take my tracker, and I work at 12 weeks at a time. Those 12 weeks are chunked into 3 months, and the 3 months are chunked into a week, and that week is day by day. And for 7 years, I just have been able to focus on one day. That's it. And that's it. Because honestly, every time people talk, I'm like, I feel pressure to like save the world or do my best or, get bigger or get smaller. I'm very impressionable. So if you can track your habits, if you can track your thinking, you can also see your thinking errors. And if you can see your thinking errors, you could rewrite them.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank everyone who is watching live and who will watch the recording that will be left in the group, as I always leave it there. Thank you so much. I have, again, as I stated earlier, thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I love talking about health and wellness, food and nutrition, training your body, feeding your body, everything about the body to help me look good, feel good, and help other women to look good and feel good and meet their goals. I just love talking about it. I have a passion to help people with it, and I will continue to talk about it and spread the knowledge. So thank you for being my special guest tonight. I hope that you come back in the future. Because
yes, I have a request, Q. I have a request.
Yes, there's definitely more to talk about, and I got more in store in the future, but I hope you will accept the invitation to come back.
Oh, so, yes, I'm going to come back. My request for you, because I'm sure your people know this, but I would love for you to talk about how you make discipline look so easy.
Woo! Now,
that's what I would be honored for you to talk about.
Because how do I make discipline look so easy?
Or how do you make discipline look so seamless, so fluid? That's something that I've always admired about you.
Well, you know what? You just got your answer. We can discuss it together, and I'll let you do the Q, and I'll do the A. How about that?
Okay.
Absolutely. I definitely will take that note down. And I love the feedback from the audience as well as the guests. And I don't take it lightly. So how do I make discipline look so easy, seamless, and fluent? Because you admire that about me. I greatly appreciate it. I will talk about it. All right. Good night, everyone. We will see you next time on the Fit In Lady Like a Boss, episode 9. Have a great night.